So with Jack Wighton leaving, let's have a discussion on what is next for the Canberra Raiders. The first thing that I want to discuss are players that will be off contract at the end of the season, players leaving. So currently, players listed as off contract include Adrian Trevelyan, Albert Hapawate, Brad Schneider, Clay Webb, Emre Gula, Jared Croker, Jordan Rapiner, Matt Frawley, Peter Holler, Tom Starling and Jaden Clarkson. There's a couple of players in there worth a bit of value. I'd say Albert Hapawate is probably on some decent money. Same with Jared Croker, Jordan Rapiner, and probably Tom Starling. Frawley might be on a fairly decent wage as well. So there's a couple fairly valuable players there. I could maybe see them re-signing Jordan Rapiner, but personally, I would not go down that route. And of course, they won't have Jack Wighton next season. That is why I'm sort of making this video. What can the Raiders do to progress? It's kind of the next step. They're kind of stuck in a weird spot at the moment where they're not like right near the bottom. They're not an awful team, but they're not anything special to kind of push their way into the top 8. It's a little bit up and down in that midfield area. So with those players leaving, I don't think there's anyone too huge, but Jack Wighton is a massive miss. But let's take a look at who they could bring in as a replacement. So taking a look at players that are off contract at the end of this season in the NRL who could realistically play in that number 6 position. Going in alphabetical order from the teams that they're in, we're looking at Cal Flanagan first. He's 24 years of age. There's a fairly good mix between age and experience. I don't think he's going to light up the league, even at a different team in a different system, but he is available and could realistically play in the number 6 position. Now, players that are off contract are a little bit more safe. You don't really have to go and poach another player. You don't have to hope that the team is looking in a different direction. Cal Flanagan is an option, but is not my preferred option on this list of 4 players. My preferred option is Kale Weeks. He's off contract from the Manly Seagulls. He's 21 years of age, and his age is the main reason why he is my preferred option for the Raiders. He's only 21, has some decent NRL experience at this point already, and is malleable, so he can be kind of moulded into a player that Ricky Stewart likes and can start to build within a new spine. And there's longevity left in his career. A decent option would be Sean Johnson. He's off contract with the New Zealand Warriors at the end of the season. I'm unaware of whether he said he's retiring at the end of the season. I don't know. Or whether he's looking to move somewhere else. Or the Warriors want to re-sign him. I don't know. But he is someone that could play in that role. But I think the Raiders would be looking to bring in someone that's a ball-running number 6. Someone more similar to Jack Wighton. Whereas Sean Johnson has kind of changed. He's adapted differently and he's now a ball-playing halfback instead of a ball-running halfback. And he's acknowledged that he is now a different player. He's not the same as he used to be. The 4th option, and my least favourite one of this, but is still realistic to play at number 6, is Luke Brooks. He's going to cost between $900,000 that Jack Wighton was on and the $1.1 mil that they offered Jack Wighton and Luke Brooks is already on. So in terms of the financial situation, that's an absolute killer. And what you get in return is probably not good enough. But he is available because he's off contract with the Tigers at the end of the season. And he's 28 years of age, so you get a good few years out of him. But in terms of that list of players, Flanagan, Weeks, Johnson and Brooks is not... It's not a great list. But I would say if you're going to go with anyone, I'd just go with KO Weeks and start to develop him in the way that you see fit. So next I want to talk about a short list of players that I've identified that the Raiders could go and snatch up from a different team. Now there are 3, but the third one I feel is a bit of a wild card who I'm going to leave for the next section of this video, which is building a new Raiders team from kind of the ground up. There's a bunch of new players I want to look at, but that leaves me with 2 players that I will list here. First of all, Isaiah Katoa is a possibility. The main reason why he's a possibility of getting snatched up by the Raiders is that they already have Sean O'Sullivan at 7, they already have Anthony Milford at 6 in the halves, and Cody Nikarima is available as the utility player that can play 6, 7, or even 9. Isaiah Katoa is 19 years of age and has already had some pretty good experiences. Looks solid for the Dolphins, had a good World Cup campaign with Tonga. I think he'd be a good option. Youngest player that I've identified as well, even including the off-contract players as well. 2 years younger than KO Weeks. So he is extremely malleable and has good experience already. Great for longevity. So I think Isaiah Katoa would be a good option to try and snatch up. The Dolphins may not let him go because they see him as their future. That's understandable. But I think there is at least a reason to go and get him because they already have that depth in those key positions. The second player I've looked at is Tyson Gamble. Is a bit of a safe option. Also not going to light up the NRL, but I think he's kind of well balanced. Similar style to Jack Wighton. Well balanced, as I say. And in terms of the Knights, they already have Kalen Ponga at 6 and Jackson Hastings at 7. Will Price, that plays for Huddersfield Giants in Super League, who's actually having a really good season right now, I really like him, is coming to the Knights in 2024. So you've already got Miller, you'll have Will Price, you've got Ponga, you've got Hastings, Crosland does fit into the 6 or 7 role, or even hooker, and you've got Brayley at number 9. So there's so much depth there for the Knights, and Tyson Gamble, I think, would just provide good balance. So I don't think Raiders fans will be over the moon if they brought in Tyson Gamble, but if you're just looking to build a new team, you can go and get a safe option. I think Tyson Gamble's fair enough. So the only other option that I could see for the Raiders is trying to bring in a new player that's still worth about the same as Jack Wighton, maybe in another position. The only other player that I could think of right now that may look to leave their team that is around the same cost of Jack Wighton, but is in a different position but still a key position within the spine, is possibly Clint Gutherson. So you get a good few years out of him. I think he's on about 800,000 at the moment. Jack Wighton was on 900,000. So you could maybe the Raiders are looking to re-sign Brad Schneider. He gets regular minutes in the number 6 role. Maybe that's the kind of route they go down, but they get an experienced fullback. Or maybe Clint Gutherson actually plays in the number 6 role. It's just a thought. But we'll get on to building a brand new Raiders team. So let's try and build a new Raiders team. There are going to be 5 players in the starting 13 that are new and 2 players on the bench that are new. So I will start with the positions that would already be filled by existing Raiders players. Starting with the right wing position, I'm going to go with Xavier Savage. 21 years of age, absolutely rapid. I think he may be comfortable at fullback, but if you can reward him with some tries, I'm sure he'll forget all about it. Moving to the left centre position, I'm going to go with Sebastian Kris. Does typically play on the right-hand side. I think for New Zealand in the World Cup, he played on the left a couple times. He's only 24 years of age. I thought he was older than that, but he's been around for a couple years now. Probably built up his skill at fullback, having to play in that role for a good few weeks now for the Raiders this season. But I see him left centre. Moving further up the pitch now to the halfback position, I think it's completely reasonable sticking with Jamal Fogarty. I think his ability to run at the line and be creative, I think, is decent. His kicking game is pretty good. His game management is completely fine. And his conversion rate seems to be pretty decent as well. So I think he's a strong halfback for them. 29 years of age. They get a good couple of years out of him. At least 4 or 5 maybe. Or, well, at least 2 or 3. And then possibly 4 or 5 unless they look to get someone younger in that position after a couple of years. The first prop position, no problems with Josh Papali'i. 30 years of age. You get maybe 2 or 3 years out of him. Hooker, Zach Wolford, I think is doing a fairly decent job there. No problems there. Other prop position, Joseph Tarpany, 28 years of age. The left second row position, I'm going to hang on for now. So on the right hand side, I'm going to go with Hudson Young, 24 years of age. And in the lock position, Corey Horsburgh. So there's not too many changes. Most of the changes have gone into the backs. 2 new additions to the spine. But looking at the players that will be on the bench that are currently at the Raiders, you have Danny Levy, 26 years of age. He'll be the second hooker. And Corey Hirawaya-Nera, 27 years of age. He's quite a versatile player. He can play prop, second rower, and lock. and can take conversions if needed. I'm pretty sure he's done a few already this season. So you've got that second hooker plus a versatile forward in there. So let's look at building the new players. So I'm just going to start with the bench first. Now, these two players are off contract with their respective clubs at the moment. They are older players, so I'm thinking they might go to the Raiders, higher paycheck for a couple years, maybe a single season. But the two players I'm looking at that they could bring in big props that are influential, I'm seeing Martin Tapau, 33 years of age, and Jordan McLean, 31 years of age. So as I said, both off contract, very experienced players. I think bring in some players that can make an impact off the bench would be huge for the Raiders. Papali'i and Tarpany can already get a lot of work done by themselves. They're two very good players, but having that kind of experience to bring on off the bench would be really solid for them. But let's keep working further down the squad. The second rower position on the left-hand side, I'm looking at somebody like Helam Lukey. I understand that the Cowboys might not let him go. The only reason why they might is they don't see him in the future project. They have Tuolangi already playing second rower. He's outstanding. And they've got Cohen Hess, typically plays on the left-hand side, I believe. But I've liked what Helam Lukey's been able to do with the Cowboys, 22 years of age. Even if they didn't get him, I think somebody like him would be a good addition to the forward pack. Let's move on to the right centre position. Now, with Xavier Savage moving across to the wing, I think a new partner would be good, and somebody that I've liked the look of this season and even last season, somebody with bags of pace where they can be absolutely devastating. He's off contract at the end of the season, is Jake Averillo from the Bulldogs. He's 22 years of age, bags of pace, as I said. I think they'd cause absolute havoc down that right-hand side. I think it'd be pretty exciting for them. So, Jake Averillo for me at the right centre position. Moving on to the left wing position, I've already mentioned him as somebody that I really, really like. He is off contract at the end of the season. Alafiana Khan Pereira, 21 years of age, from the Titans. I think he's a really exciting prospect and somebody that is going to replace Jordan Rapiner in the future for many years to come. I think he's a really good option. A really good option. So, moving to the fullback position, he's not off contract, but there is a lot of depth already in the spine and in his position, which means I think he is available to snatch up. And that is Jaden Campbell from the Gold Coast Titans, also 23 years of age. Now, a few things that I've seen, there was mentions of him maybe going to the Eels if Gutherson was to leave. You've already got AJ Brimson, who was a number 6, now starting at fullback. In the half, you've got Kieran Foran and Tanner Boyd. You've got Toby Sexton that can come in if needed. There's just a lot of pieces already in place for the Titans. And Campbell hasn't really been getting the game time, but I think he is a very influential player. Two other players that could be identified is possibly Dane Laurie, he's off contract with the Tigers, and Charlie Staines. I could see Charlie Staines ending up at the Raiders specifically, or mainly because he's more of a system player, and I sort of feel that Ricky Stewart would prefer a system player rather than someone that is a bit more off the cuff like Jaden Campbell. But trying to do something new, I think Campbell would be very influential for the Raiders. That brings me to the 5/8 position, the replacement for Jack Wighton. Many of you might be thinking, is it going to be some star player that's earning the same amount of money? Is it going to be a kid? No, it's neither of those. It's not a big number 6 like a Jerome Luai or a Dylan Brown. Nobody like that. It's not a young player, even though I have mentioned K.O. Weeks, for example, and Isaiah Katoa. They are young players. But I'm kind of going down a Nico Hines route with this one. That's the best way I can describe it. In that, at his current club, he's having to fill in different positions. He's a bit of a utility player, but I think he would appreciate some stability in that role, and he'd be getting paid more at number 6 than as a utility player. The player I feel could be a good option for the future, a good mix of age and experience, would be Nick Meaney. That would be my option for 5'8" for the Raiders. Now, could be people looking at me thinking, you are an idiot, you don't know what you're talking about. Fair enough, I might not. But here's my reasoning. At the Melbourne Storm, first of all, Craig Bellamy won't be there next season. That's one potential reason why Nick Meaney might want to leave. They'll already have Ryan Pappenhausen back in the number 1 position. Cameron Munster will obviously start at number 6, Jerome Hughes at 7, and Harry Grant at 9. Possibly the best spine in the NRL. Arguably, definitely the best spine in the NRL. On paper, anyway. So Nick Meaney is typically a winger. So he might just move back to the wing. He might appreciate that. The spine is now in full force once again, but I can just go back to the right wing position and start scoring tries for fun. Maybe. But he may be comfortable with the fullback position and want to look to start elsewhere. I don't think there are many teams that would do that. Maybe the Tigers would look to do that. If they don't want to stick with Staines or Laurie, they might look at Nick Meaney. That's a possibility. But the reason why I'd sort of label this as a Nicho Hynes pick is that Hynes was a utility player, typically played fullback in place of Ryan Pappenhausen. I didn't see too much of his ability to control the game as a number 7. But I think Nick Meaney, having to move position around so much, would really appreciate some stability. Only being 25 years of age, he's got so many more years left in him. And he has actually played in the number 6 role, because at times Storm has played Munster at fullback for Meaney to play at 5'8". And I think there's kind of some potential there that needs to be unlocked. And we've seen it with fullbacks before in the NRL. Anthony Milford's one example. Kalen Ponga is the latest example of a fullback playing in the 5'8" position. I think Nick Meaney, he's got that experience on the wing, experience at fullback, having to learn to make those supporting runs and those looping passes over the top. Playing in the number 6 role at 5'8", learning how to control the game. Yes, Jerome Hughes has mainly done that for him, but he has that experience. He's played under a great coach, played around some great players, and I think he can take that, find some stability with the Raiders, and start to build kind of a new spine and get things moving in a sort of more positive direction with a new number 6 that can stick around for a long time. So that is the squad that I would look at for the Raiders. This is not to say that this is the entire new squad that they should go for, but here are some positions that they could probably look to change and improve. But I would really like to see Nick Meaney get some stability and kind of shine in a new role, getting paid a bit more in a position that is worth more money than wingers, I believe. So, yeah, the saviour of the Raiders, Nick Meaney. So, that is going to be it for this video. If you have any thoughts on any new players that you think the Raiders should bring in, who you think they should let go, who should they re-sign, let me know in the comments down below. But if you enjoy this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with new content. You can also follow the social media accounts in the description down below. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.